Honorable Chairman of WARC, Young Dynamic, Arpit Kabra, Secretary Saurabh, Ketan Bhai, the Direct Tax Committee Chair, and of course, my friend Rudesh. Thank you for this opportunity of interacting with the members of WARC on in a timely manner on the topic of capital gains and the changes which are relevant for the return filing, etc. So as Ketan Bhai has highlighted the program today or the layout of the program. So we'll discuss the basics of capital gain provisions, the recent amendment, the recent changes for about an hour and a half. And then towards the end, we open the floor for the Q&As and practical questions or practical queries so that we make it more interactive and be specific to the queries, whichever are the questions arising for the members, happy to address them towards the end. So as we go deep into the capital gains provision, it's always important for us to brush up, or as the series itself is recap, right? So we are just revising and recapping our knowledge on capital gains, and there have been few recent changes very recently. So I'll cover all those during my session, and obviously we'll have the Q&As towards the end. So if you look at the scheme of capital gains just briefly, just to give you an overview, we have the charging section as section 45. Then we have the definition section 214, which is the definition of capital asset. 229A to 42A, that is long-term capital gain, short-term capital gain definition. Then we have 247, that is the definition of transfer. Then we have certain transfers which are not regarded, or certain transactions not regarded as transfer, which are given in section 47. Then we go to the computation mechanism, section 48, that is a mode of computation of cost of acquisition in certain cases, section 49. Depreciable assets, section 50, subsection 1, 50, subsection 2. Slump sale, covered by section 50B, read with section 242C. Then certain anti-abuse provisions like 50C, 50D, 50CA, etc. We have certain special provisions for non-residents, which are covered in section 115 AB, AC, ACA, and AD. Cost of improvement or cost of acquisition, which is defined in section 55. For listed securities, we have specific sections like 111A, 112, 112A, which is recently introduced a couple of years back. So this is the entire gamut of the scheme of capital gain taxation, right? And we'll try and go deep into each one of these aspects and cover all of these, and of course relevant to the return filing towards the end. So for any profit or gain arising from transfer of capital asset effected in the previous year shall be chargeable to income tax under the head capital gain. So what are the ingredients? First of all, there has to be a capital asset, right? That capital asset has to be transferred. So the definition of transfer becomes very important. You also need to refer section 47 for certain transactions which are not regarded as transfer, or which are exempt from the definition of transfer. And there has to be any gain or loss, so that those gains can be chargeable to tax, or if there are losses, they can be carried forward. Capital asset, if you look at the definition, it says property of any kind, whether or not in connection with business, profession, or securities held by FII, but it does not include. So these are the exclusions from the definition of capital asset. The first one is stock in trade, raw material, consumable stores, held for the purpose of business or profession, because this will be taxed as income from business and profession. Then you have personal effects for personal use, excluding jewelry, archaeological collections, drawing, painting, sculptures, or any work of art. So when you say excluding, it means jewelry, archaeological collections, drawing, painting, sculpture, or any work of art will be included in the definition of capital asset. Apart from these, any other personal assets, for example, personal car, personal motor vehicle, etc., personal bike, this will not be considered as capital asset. However, jewelry will be considered as a capital asset. Archaeological collections, drawing, painting, sculptures, or any work of art will be considered to be a capital asset. Agricultural land, again, subject to certain exceptions, it has to be a rural agricultural land. So rural agricultural land is also out of the definition of capital asset. Gold bonds, special bearer bonds, gold deposit bonds, etc. Property includes right in relation to an Indian company, including rights of management or control, or any other right whatsoever, indirect transfer of shares or interest. So this was the amendment on indirect transfer, which was brought in post the Vodafone Supreme Court ruling, wherein now, even if you are transferring the shares of foreign company, right? For example, the transferor is a foreign company, the transferee also is a foreign company, the shares of the company which are being transferred also is a foreign company. Even then, this particular transaction can be held to be taxable in India if that particular foreign company जिसका शेयर बेचा जा रहा है, if that has any right of management, control, or any rights in India, right? So this is called as indirect transfer, which also will be covered by the definition of capital asset. So just a snapshot of inclusions, exclusions. Obviously, we'll circulate this presentation. Definitely, we'll circulate this. The PDF version will be shared with all the participants, so not to worry. Meaning of transfer: sale, exchange, or relinquishment of asset, extinguishment of right in an asset, compulsory acquisition of an asset under the law, conversion of asset into stock in trade, maturity or redemption of zero coupon bond, transaction which has the effect of transferring or enabling enjoyment of immovable property. So this is nothing but part performance under the TOPA Act, that is Transfer of Property Act. Even if you don't have an agreement, proper agreement, but you transfer the right of the immovable property under section 53A. Under section 53A of the Transfer of Properties Act, it will be considered as transfer, and therefore that also will be subject to capital gains under the Income Tax Act. So definition of transfer expanded to include indirect transfer of shares or interest with retrospective effect. This is what we just discussed. If you look at the exclusion, section 47, what are the transfers which are excluded from the definition of transfer? First is transfer under gift, will, or an irrevocable trust. Gift, will, or irrevocable trust. Transfer by a holding company to wholly owned subsidiary, right? Transfer by a holding company to wholly owned subsidiary, and vice versa. There is an 8-year lock-in that the holding subsidiary relationship should continue for 8 years. Under section 47 capital A, the holding subsidiary relationship should be continued for 8 years. Only then you will be eligible for this particular exemption. Amalgamation, again, transfer of capital assets by amalgamating company and transfer of shares in amalgamating company subject to conditions. So amalgamations are also exempt. Demerger, also transfer of capital asset of demerged company and the issue of shares by the resulting company to the shareholders of the demerged company is again subject to conditions. Transfer of shares in an Indian company by an amalgamating foreign company to the amalgamated foreign company. So this is amalgamation of two foreign companies where Indian company shares are being transferred. This also is exempt from tax. Conversion of bonds, debentures, preference shares into shares or debentures of the same company. NR to NR transfer of rupee denominated bond. So if there is a rupee denominated bond or a masala bond where in the denomination is in INR and that is being transferred by a non-resident to another non-resident, then it will be exempt from tax. Transfer by a firm or a sole proprietary concern to the company on succession subject to the conditions. Transfer by a private limited company or an unlisted company to a LLP as a result of conversion of company into LLP. So when a company is converted into LLP, that transaction also is not regarded as transfer under section 47(13)(b). Types of capital asset. Now we all know what are the types of capital asset, but just for the sake of completion, short-term capital asset defined in 242A. it says general criteria is 36 months for assets held not for a period more than 36 months, right? So if it is less than 36 months or equal to 36 months, it will be a short-term capital asset. Apart from that, for listed securities, shares, unit of UTI or unit of equity oriented mutual fund or zero coupon bond, the threshold is less than 12 months. So if it is more than 12 months, then it will be considered to be a long-term capital asset, right? Unlisted shares and immovable property, here it is 24 months. Here it is 24 months, right? If held for less than 24 months. Okay. What if assuming it is exactly 12 months or exactly 24 months, if you can use the chat box or Q&A box wherever you can answer. If the shares or securities is exactly held for 12 months, will it be short term or long term? You can use the chat box. If it is exactly 12 months, it will be short term or long term. Long term, long term, long term. Anyone saying short term? Everyone agrees it is long term? Perfect. It is long term. So exactly 12 months, it will be a long term capital asset. Right? Similarly, immovable property or unlisted shares, if it is exactly 24 months, it will be a long term capital asset. And the definition of long term is very simple. जो short term नहीं है वो long term है. Very simple. Right? So just to summarize here, I have just tabulated all the categories of assets or all the categories of probable capital assets where you can see transactions. So this can be used as a ready reckoner for number of months criteria if at all someone doesn't remember. Right? Now, this is something interesting and practical I wanted to discuss. Right? Transfer of period of holding for residential property. Period of holding for residential property. Okay. In many cases, specifically when you talk about Mumbai, right? Flats are booked even when the project is under construction or even before the construction starts at times. Developer provides the allotment letter to the allottee. For example, I have booked a flat in say 2018. I have booked a flat in 2018. I received the allotment letter in 2018. However, I get the possession in 2023. I get the possession in 2023. Now the question arises, from which period do you consider this particular property as a short-term period to calculate short-term capital gain or long-term capital gain? The period of holding, from which date do I consider? Do I consider from 2018 or do I consider from 2023? Yes. From which date do I consider 2018 date of allotment or date of possession? Date of allotment. Okay. Can I not argue that the property is not in existence till 2023? If I'm talking about a flat, the flat is not ready at all till 2023. How can I say that I held the property? The property itself is not in existence. Yes. Can the department argue कि boss property तो existence में था ही नहीं 2023 तक? How can you say that the period of holding is from 2018? The department can argue that, yes or no? Right? So, in this particular case, the matter is obviously subject to litigation as we have a difference of opinion here. Some of you are saying 2018, some of you are saying 2023. However, a position can be taken, of course, based on the facts of the respective case and available documentation. That period of holding can be considered from the date of allotment and not the date of possession. Right? There are few case laws, Mumbai Tribunal, to support this view that you can consider 2018. Anita Kanjani, Jitendra Mohan, Delhi Tribunal, and Sanjay Kamath of Indore Tribunal. So you can rely on these judgments. Again, I am not recommending or suggesting to take this position. However, it is still technically possible to take this position that my period of holding can be considered from the date of allotment and not from the date of possession. Okay. Again, subject to litigation, but there are judgments to support this view. Now coming to the computation mechanism. Full value of consideration. Amount that the transferor receives as a consideration if the consideration in kind, FMV, to be considered. Deemed consideration for land and building, you need to consider the stamp duty value, right? If the difference between the stamp duty value and the actual sale consideration is more than 10%. If it is within 10%, then you need not worry about it. Then you can continue to consider the actual consideration as the full value of consideration. Deemed consideration, when consideration is not ascertainable, 50D is given to read with 11 UA, etc. To arrive at the, how do you derive the value of full value of consideration? From full value of consideration, you reduce the cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition is typically the cost to the assessee. Cost of asset in special cases referred in section 55, that is asset acquired prior to 1/4/2001, where you can consider FMV as on 2001, or cost of acquisition at the option of the assessee. Benefit of indexation is available. You need to refer to the first proviso and the second proviso respectively. You also are eligible to reduce the cost of improvement. Capital expenditure incurred for additions, alterations to capital asset does not include any expenditure deductible under any other head of income. And lastly, you are also eligible to reduce the expenses in connection with the transfer. Expenses such as legal fees, brokerage, removal of encumbrances, etc. STT also is allowed as a deductible expense. You can claim STT also as a deductible expense. And whatever is the balance amount remaining, that will be my capital gains, either short term or long term, as the case may be. Right? In case of long term, I am eligible to get the benefit of indexation also. Okay. Now coming to the indexation. Second proviso. Indexation is a technique to adjust the income payments by means of a price index in order to maintain the purchasing power of the public and inflation. So effectively, this is to give effect to the inflation. Applicability, it is eligible, it is applicable to both resident as well as non-resident. Long-term capital gains arising from transfer of long-term capital asset. What is specifically excluded? Shares of an Indian company transferred by a non-resident and debenture or bonds. These are not covered here. Apart from that, all other long-term capital assets are covered. How do you arrive at indexed cost of acquisition? If the asset is acquired up to 31st of March 2001, then cost of acquisition multiplied by CII for the year of transfer divided by 100, right? And for COA, you can also take the fair market value as on 1st April 2001. If the asset is purchased prior to 1st April 2001, then your cost of acquisition can be considered, or your fair market value can be considered to be your cost of acquisition at the option of the assessee, of course. And the numerator will be a CII for the year of transfer, assuming if you are selling in 2023-24, then CII for the current year will be the numerator and 100 will be the denominator. If it is after 1st April 2001, if it is after 1st April 2001, then cost of acquisition multiplied by CII for the year of transfer divided by CII for the first year in which the asset was first held by the assessee. Okay. So this is how you calculate the index cost of acquisition. Now coming to non-residents, right, who invest in shares and securities in foreign currencies. Unke case mein, how do you calculate? You have to look at section, you have to look at the first proviso read with rule 115A, right? So if you see first proviso, how does it read? Non-residents who invest in the shares and debentures of an Indian company were being adversely affected due to fall in the value of Indian rupee vis-a-vis the foreign currency. Further, indexation benefits are provided to residents and the same is not provided to non-residents for sale of shares and debentures. Therefore, you have this first proviso wherein it applies in the following criteria. Assessee is a non-resident, transfer of shares or debentures of an Indian company, and the asset was purchased in foreign currency. So इस केस में हम क्या करेंगे? कन्वर्जन ऑफ कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन. कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन को हम फॉरेन करेंसी में कन्वर्ट करेंगे. कैसे? SBI TT बाइंग रेट और SBI TT सेलिंग रेट लेंगे, divided by 2, and we will do an average. What is important here is you have to take SBI TT buying rate and not the RBI reference rate, right? ठीक है? SBI TT buying rate आपको SBI के पास से मिलेगा, उनके पास से आपको परचेज करना पड़ेगा. They charge some 100 rupees etc. for providing these rates. ठीक है? You cannot rely on RBI rates, I repeat. Okay. Then on the date of acquisition आपको cost of acquisition को convert करना है in foreign currency. Expenditure on transfer को भी आपको same SBI TT buying rate plus SBI TT selling rate divided by 2. ये किस दिन का? On the date of transfer का. Full value of consideration को भी again same SBI TT buying rate plus selling rate divided by 2 average करके उसको date of transfer पे reconvert करना है. फिर capital gains जो आएगा foreign currency में, जो capital gains आएगा उसको हम multiply करेंगे SBI TT buying rate पे, उसको हम multiply करेंगे SBI TT buying rate पे on the date of transfer to arrive at a particular amount of capital gains, to arrive at the amount of capital gains in INR. So this is reconversion of foreign currency capital gain into INR, right? So this is how you will compute the capital gains for shares and securities, specifically where the transfer is by a non-resident. Okay. So here, cost to the previous owner, there is an exception that where there is distribution of capital asset by virtue of distribution of asset by HUF in case of total or partition, or under gift or will, or by succession, inheritance or devolution rather, or on distribution of asset on liquidation of company, on transfer to trust, on certain transfers covered under section 47, where such asset is transferred by an individual to the common stock of HUF. In these cases, assuming the property is not purchased by me, but it was purchased by my father. Assuming the property was purchased by my father. Okay. And I have received it by virtue of a succession or a will. I have received this property by virtue of succession or a will. Then in that case, the cost of acquisition shall be deemed to be the cost to the previous owner. Previous owner means मेरे father is the previous owner. So उनका जो price होगा, उनका जो cost होगा, that will be considered to be, or that will be deemed to be the cost of acquisition. Okay. So cost to previous owner will be considered to be cost of acquisition in these cases, as increased by the cost of improvement of the asset incurred or borne by the previous owner or the assessee, right? And increased by the cost of improvement of the asset incurred or borne by the previous owner or the assessee. Now, who is the previous owner? जिनके पास से मुझे ये property मिला है. Previous owner means the last previous owner of the capital asset who acquired the asset by mode of acquisition other than those referred to 49(1). ठीक है? मतलब जो भी previous owner होगा जिसने actually property purchase किया होगा, उसका benefit या उसका cost of improvement मिलेगा, right? Okay. Let us look at an example, and I need answers from you here. A purchased the capital asset for rupees 1,000. and incurred rupees 100 as cost of improvement. Then A gifted the asset to B. A gifted the asset to B. Okay. B incurred a cost of improvement of 150. B incurred cost of improvement of 150. Then B also gifts this asset to C. B ने C को गिफ्ट दे दिया. ठीक है. C ने भी cost of improvement किया 200 का. And ultimately the asset is sold by C to D at a consideration of 2000. At a consideration of 2000. Before the sale of asset to D, who is the owner and who is the previous owner? Who is the owner and who is the previous owner? Yes, in the chat box, please. Who is the owner and who is the previous owner? C is the owner, that is very clear. Previous owner कौन होगा? C is the owner, that is very clear. Who is the previous owner? B or A? B or A? Who is the previous owner? Previous owner will always be A. If you look at the definition, it says previous owner will be the owner who acquires the asset otherwise than by way of gift, etc. Here B has acquired this asset by way of gift. Okay, so B ने भी asset purchase नहीं किया है. So ultimately, if you have to look at it as a thumb rule, जिसने actually asset purchase किया होगा, he will be considered to be the previous owner. Okay, clear? What is the cost of acquisition for C? What is the cost of acquisition for C? Yes, in the chat box. 1000. Everybody? 1000 cost to the previous owner, right? Cost of acquisition. I am not asking about cost of improvement. I am just asking cost of acquisition. Cost of acquisition will be 1000, right? Cost of acquisition will always be 1000. Now we will see what is the cost of improvement. What is the cost of improvement for C? Cost of improvement क्या होगा? Cost of improvement, I'll give you three options. ठीक है? Option 1, 200. Option 2, 300. Option 3, 450. 200, 300, 450. चलो तीन ऑप्शन दे दिया, आपका लाइफ सिंपल कर दिया. 200, 300, 450. Someone is saying 450, someone is saying 300, someone is saying 200. Okay, that is why this relearn series, because we have forgotten our basics. So we just discussed, right, that cost of improvement किसका मिलेगा? एक तो जो सेलर है अभी उसका, जो एक्चुअल में ओनर है अभी, विच इज C प्लस प्रीवियस ओनर, दो जनों का मिलेगा. सो C का कितना है? 200. प्रीवियस ओनर का कितना है? 100. B का कॉस्ट ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं मिलेगा. B का कॉस्ट ऑफ इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं मिलेगा. ओनली द ओनर एंड द प्रीवियस ओनर का मिलेगा. सो हु इज द प्रीवियस ओनर? A. Who is the previous owner? A. Okay, so therefore what will be the cost? 300. So 300 is the right answer. 200 plus 100, right? Last question. What is the amount of capital gain in the hands of A, B and C? What is the amount of capital gain? Is there any capital gain in the hands of A? ए ने तो गिफ्ट दे दिया बी को, सो देयर इज नो कैपिटल गेन इन द हैंड्स ऑफ ए। सिमिलरली बी ने भी गिफ्ट दिया है, उसको भी कोई कैपिटल गेन नहीं आए। अभी सी का बात करते हैं, सी को क्या कैपिटल गेन आएगा, ये सोल्ड इट एट 2000 minus 1000 my cost of acquisition and minus 300 cost of improvement, 700 will be my, right, 700 will be my capital gains, 700 will be my capital gains. Okay, 2000 minus 1000 minus 300. Okay, so if you look at the relevant section for capital gain taxability of shares, securities, etc., section 111A is for short-term capital gains in certain cases. 112 is for normal long-term capital gains. 112A, the recently introduced one for listed securities. And for non-residents, 115 AB, AC, ACA, and 115 AD. Again, for non-residents, you can also look at the tax treaties, right, for the capital gain section. And what are the specific rates or the beneficial rates available under the tax treaties? You can apply those also. Now, again, just to give you a glimpse of comparison between resident and non-resident, if it is STT paid short-term capital gain, equity-oriented mutual fund, equity shares, etc., then the 111A rate will be 15%. If it is non-STT, then it will be 30%. Okay. Equity shares, again, for STT paid equity oriented mutual funds, everything will be 15% for both resident as well as non-resident. Non-STT, 30% for resident company or normal slab rate for individuals and 40% for foreign company. Bonds, debentures, government securities, again short-term capital gain. Company के हाथ में 30% और normal tax rate, और individual के हाथ में normal slab, non-resident के हाथ में 40%. Residential house also, if it is a short term, it will go as per my normal slab rate, or 30% in terms of company and 40% for non-resident or the foreign company. Okay. Similarly, listed equity shares long term sold off market. Resident के केस में it will be 20%, non-resident के केस में 10%, right, as per the 115 section. Listed shares sold off market, again 20%, and second proviso available, where you have a rate of 10% without indexation and 20% with indexation. You have the option available here. Unlisted shares, again 20% for resident company and 10% for non-resident or the foreign company. Unit of mutual fund equity oriented long-term mutual funds, 20% is the tax rate, and again for non-resident company also it is 20%, again subject to treaty benefits. For bonds, listed debentures, bonds, etc., again 20% without indexation, and first proviso is available and tax at the rate of 10% for non-resident. Listed bonds, debenture purchased in INR, Indian currency, again 20%, no indexation. So one thing is, डिबेंचर और बॉन्ड के केस में आपको इंडेक्सेशन नहीं मिलेगा, डिबेंचर और बॉन्ड के केस में आपको इंडेक्सेशन नहीं मिलेगा. डोमेस्टिक टैक्स पेयर के लिए टैक्स रेट इज 20%, नॉन रेसिडेंट के लिए द टैक्स रेट इज 10%. ओके. अदर एसेट्स, अगेन बेनिफिशियल और अदर द बैलेंसिंग प्रोविजंस, राइट, residual provisions, 20% in both the cases. Long term always 20%, and it will be subject to surcharge and cess, of course. Now coming to amendment by Finance Act 2020. What are the amendments? Transfer of mutual fund units, no TDS on capital gains derived by resident payers on transfer of mutual fund units. Then section 43 CA, 50 C and 56 to 10, the tolerance limit was increased by 5% to 10%. Segregation of mutual fund schemes, cost of acquisition to be allocated, allocation similar to acquisition of shares of demergers. So if any mutual fund schemes are segregated, right, into different schemes, then the cost of acquisition will be allocated on similar lines like demerger of shares. Cost of acquisition for land or building as on 1st April 2001 cannot be greater than the stamp duty value as on that date. Now, as you are aware, for land and building purchased prior to 1st April 2001, the cost of acquisition can be the fair market value, right? So therefore, what people used to do is they used to take any fair market value from a registered valuer or from a valuer, which was higher than the stamp duty value also as on 1st April 2001. Now, therefore, the government is plugging this loophole and saying those nothing doing. Your cost of acquisition or your fair market value as on 1st April 2001 cannot be more than the stamp duty value as on that date. It cannot be more than the stamp duty value as on that date. So they have plugged this loophole, and you cannot rely on any stamp duty valuer or any other valuer to arrive at a value which is higher than the stamp duty value. Right? Then section 55 में भी जो amendment है, presently section 55 provides that where capital asset became the property of the SSE before 1/4/2001, the SSE has an option to adopt fair market value. So this is what we just discussed. Similarly, where the capital asset has been received by an SSE in a mode by way of gift, inheritance, will, etc., then also you can take the cost of the previous owner or the fair market value as on 1/4/2001 to be its cost of acquisition. Amendment क्या है? If the capital asset transferred is land, building, or both, then its fair market value cannot be higher than the stamp duty value. This is what we just discussed. Coming to the long-term capital gains on listed securities. So there was one amendment in Finance Act 2017, may not be that relevant today, but still from the completeness perspective, I just thought that I'll cover this also. Exemption granted by Finance Act 2014 that with effect from AY 1516 for LTCG on transfer of equity shares or units of equity oriented mutual fund on which security transaction tax was paid. In case of listed shares or securities on which STT is not paid, option was available to pay tax at the rate of 10% without claiming indexation benefit. Finance Act क्या बोलता है? Exemption denied on LTCG in case of equity shares if at the time of purchase of shares STT was not paid. तो अगर परचेस के टाइम पे एसटीटी पे नहीं किया है, effectively this was aimed to curb the malpractices of penny stocks, okay, which were claiming exemption on in LTC. So to curb those malpractices of penny stocks, they have brought in this amendment that if you are not paying STT on purchase as well as sell, दोनों टाइम पे आपने STT पे किया होना चाहिए, तो ही आपको ये बेनिफिट एग्जेम्पशन का मिलेगा, अदरवाइज नहीं मिलेगा. There are few exceptions to these cases, like genuine cases like ESOP, etc. Right? Notification number 43 provides an exclusion if it is by way of merger, amalgamation, etc., where the scheme is approved by NCLT, SEBI, or RBI, or any High Court. There are these exceptions also provided. If you look at the exceptions, it says acquisition of existing listed shares of thinly traded company by way of preferential allotment. So if it is by way of preferential allotment, this exclusion will apply to you. Acquisition of existing listed shares off the market, this also is covered by way of exclusion. And acquisition of unlisted equity shares of a company post delisting but prior to relisting, this also is covered in this exclusion provided by notification number 43. Carve outs क्या है? सबसे पहले approved by Supreme Court, High Court, NCLT, SEBI, or RBI. So if it is approved by these authorities, then you will still be eligible to claim the benefit. Acquisition by NR in accordance with FDI. Acquisition by AIF, that is alternate investment funds or venture capital funds, through preferential allotments not governed by Chapter 7 of SEBI ICDR regulations, to lender or debenture holder under the scheme approved by High Court under section 391 to 394 of the Old Companies Act or 230 to 234 of the New Companies Act. In terms of rehab schemes like BIFR, SICA, insolvency and bankruptcy, IBC, if it is under those cases, then these exceptions are allowable. दूसरा clause, acquisition of listed existing listed equity shares off the market. इसमें क्या exclusions है? If it is made in accordance with SCRA 1956, if applicable, through fresh issue of shares by banks, PFIs, or reconstruction or securitization companies approved by again Supreme Court, High Court, NCLT, SEBI, RBI, under SEBI, ESOP or ESPS schemes, by NR in accordance with FDI, ये पहले में भी था, under SEBI, SAST regulations from government, by category 1 or 2 AIF or venture capital funds again. Okay. Or by mode of transfer specified in section 47 or 50B provided by the provided previous owner was eligible to claim the exemption. Now I am going fast in this particular provision because this is not that relevant from our perspective, because this is a bit dated now, but I am just covering this from completeness perspective, right? So just to understand by virtue of case study, so A Limited acquisition of shares in IPO. A Limited acquisition of shares in IPO. Okay. A Limited is an unlisted company. Promoters of A Limited to raise funds by listing A Limited on BSE for the first time. Fresh issue of shares issued by A Limited. Shares should be received by the public shareholders of the market as a part of IPO before listing. Okay. So effectively, you will receive the shares and then those shares will be listed, right? For example, Zomato का public listing आया, IPO आया, you receive the shares and then it was listed on the share market. Listing date बाद में आता है, allotment के बाद listing date होता है. Whether shares acquired in IPO eligible for exemption under section 1038. Whether shares acquired in IPO eligible for exemption under section 1038. Now today 1038 is no longer relevant in any case, right? 1038 is no longer relevant because now long-term capital gains is taxable. There is no exemption available today. So therefore I was just going fast because as such this is not relevant today because no exemption is available and all the transfers are taxable now. Okay, so I'll just skip this because as I said that the exemption of 1038 is today no longer relevant. Today all the transfers are taxable. Therefore what is relevant is the amendment by Finance Act 2018, right? Long-term capital gains on listed securities, amendment by Finance Act 2018. This is important. Now, as you are aware, earlier 1038 allowed you an exemption for long-term capital gains on transfer of listed equity shares, units of equity-oriented fund, or units of business trust. Right now, there is new provision of 112A, read with section 55(2) AC, which introduces long-term capital gain on these shares at a concessional rate of 10%, where long-term capital gain exceeds 1 lakh rupees. No indexation benefit would be available. Grandfathering provided to capital gains accrued till 31st January 2018. तो 2018 तक का जो मार्केट वैल्यू है, 31st January 2018 का जो मार्केट वैल्यू है, दैट आई कैन, उस अमाउंट तक कोई टैक्स नहीं लगेगा, उस अमाउंट तक कोई टैक्स नहीं लगेगा. इफ द कैपिटल गेन इज ओवर एंड अबव दैट अमाउंट, ओनली देन you will pay the capital gains. I'll cover this by virtue of example in the subsequent slides. Applicable to LTCG, applicable to LTCG from transfer of equity shares, equity oriented mutual funds, or unit of business trust where STT has been paid on acquisition. LTCG up to 31st March 2018 remains exempt because this amendment is effective from 1st of April 2018. Today we are in 2023. So we have to look at it as of today. In case of units of equity-oriented mutual fund or business trust, the sale should have suffered STT. The sale should have suffered STT. Okay. Notification number 43 of 2017, where exclusions were provided, that applies here also. That applies here also. Now, one important aspect here I wanted to ask you is that if my long term capital gain is say 68,000, if my long term capital gain is 68,000, will that be taxable under section 112A? Yes or no in the chat box. No, no, no. Yes. So what is taxable is only the amount over and above 1 lakh rupees. 1 लाख से ऊपर होगा तो ही taxable होगा. 1 लाख से नीचे है तो वो amount taxable नहीं होगा. Okay, that is the first important point on this particular amendment of. Okay. ग्रैंडफादरिंग प्रोविजन क्या बोलता है? कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन इन रिस्पेक्ट ऑफ सच ग्रैंडफादर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट, मतलब एज ऑफ 31 जनवरी 2018 तक का, बिकॉज बजट 1 फरवरी 2018 को आया था तो उन्होंने लास्ट डेट को कट ऑफ डेट रखा है, दैट इज 31 जनवरी 2018, wherein it says cost of acquisition in respect of grandfathered investment shall be deemed to be the higher of actual cost of acquisition of such investments and lower of the fair market value on such investments and full value of consideration received or accruing as a result of the transfer of capital asset. Now this is important. आपको क्या कंपेयर करना है? एक्चुअल कॉस्ट. मेरा एक्चुअल कॉस्ट को किससे कंपेयर करेंगे हम? लोअर ऑफ फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू और फुल वैल्यू ऑफ कंसिडरेशन accruing as a result of transfer of capital asset. ठीक है. Now why this fair market value or full value of consideration, whichever is lower, they do not want you to claim loss by virtue of this grandfathering provision. ठीक है. ग्रैंडफादरिंग प्रोविजन की वजह से आप अननेसेसरी लॉस क्लेम नहीं कर सकते. इसका पर्पस यही है कि आपको जो फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू 31 जनवरी तक की आपकी फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू है, तब तक आपको बेनिफिट मिलेगा, तब तक आपको टैक्स नहीं पे करना. However, if you say that my full value of consideration is lower than the fair market value, on 31st January 2018, can I claim the loss? The answer is no, you cannot claim the loss. Okay. FMV कैसे कैलकुलेट करना है? हाईएस्ट प्राइस कोटेड ऑन 31 जनवरी 2018. और अगर 31 जनवरी को शेयर ट्रेड ही नहीं हुआ है तो आपको इमीडिएटली प्रीसीडिंग डेट देखना है जिस भी दिन वो ट्रेड हुआ है. ठीक है, मतलब 30 जनवरी देखो या जो भी डेट पे वो ट्रेड हुआ है लास्ट, यू नीड टू चेक दैट. ओके, नाउ लेट अस लुक एट द एग्जांपल. डेट ऑफ एक्विजिशन 1 नवंबर 2016. डेट ऑफ एक्विजिशन 1 नवंबर 2016. परचेस प्राइस 100 रुपया, 100 rupees. Highest price quoted on 31st January 2018 is 180. Highest price quoted is 180. Date of sales समझो 2 अप्रैल को सेल किया है, सेल प्राइस इज 200. एक्चुअल गेन कितना है? 200 minus 100. 100 rupees is my actual gain. Okay, 100 rupees is my actual gain. But 100 rupees पे टैक्स लगेगा क्या? 100 rupees पे टैक्स नहीं लगेगा. कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन मुझे क्या देखना है? एज पर सेक्शन 112A, हायर ऑफ. ओके, कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन मुझे क्या देखना है? हायर ऑफ 100 rupees, that is my actual purchase price. Cost of acquisition is higher of 100, which is my actual purchase price, and I compare this with lower of 200, which is the sale price, or 180, which is the highest traded price on 31st January 2018. So 100 को मैं कंपेयर करूंगा, 200 और 180 का लोअर कौन सा है? 180. ठीक है, so 100 versus 180, whichever is higher. So highest traded price क्या था? 180. So 180 तक मुझे कोई टैक्स पे नहीं करना है. It means long term capital gain will be 200, which is my actual sale price, minus 180. Minus 180. मतलब 20 रुपीज पे ही मुझे टैक्स भरना है, टैक्स. ओके, इफेक्टिवली 31 जनवरी तक जो भी प्राइस है तब तक मुझे टैक्स नहीं भरना है. 180 रुपीज तक मुझे कोई टैक्स नहीं भरना है. उसके ऊपर जो भी गेन होगा उस पे मुझे कैपिटल गेन टैक्स भरना है. एम आई क्लियर? Let us look at different scenarios. If my actual cost is 100, FMV is 200, sale consideration is 250, okay. So what is my cost of acquisition now? 200 versus 250, whichever is lower, मतलब 200, और 200 versus actual cost, इसका मुझे करना है whichever is higher. So 200 is my cost of acquisition in this case. 200 is my cost of acquisition in this case. तो अभी LTCG क्या होगा? 250 minus 200. 250 minus 200. So 50 rupees is my long-term capital gain. Okay, just a minute.
व्योमेश भाई,
करो। हाँ हाँ वही तो बोला, मैं करता हूँ बात योगेंद्र से। हाँ, हम्म, हाँ करेक्ट करेक्ट।
हाँ ओके ओके व्योमेश भाई, મને એ જ લાગ્યું. એનીવે
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so if you look at scenario 2, my actual cost is 100, FMV is 200, sale consideration is 150. ठीक है, so FMV 200 versus sale consideration 150, whichever is lower, 150. ठीक है, so my cost of acquisition is 150 versus 100, my actual cost, whichever is higher, so 150. ठीक है, effectively यहाँ पे just because my FMV on 31st January 2018, just because my cost of acquisition is say 100, but FMV is 200 on 31st January 2018, my actual sale value is only 150. ठीक है, so effectively क्या होगा यहाँ पे, because of this fair market value, I cannot claim a loss, because actually देखने जाओ तो मुझे 50 रुपीज का गेन है, 150 मेरा सेलिंग प्राइस है, 100 मेरा कॉस्ट है, एक्चुअल में देखने जाओ तो 50 रुपीज का मेरे को गेन है. हाउएवर आई कैन नॉट, और रेदर आई विल नॉट पे टैक्स ऑन दिस 50 बिकॉज मेरा फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू ज्यादा था 31st जनवरी का. बट द पॉइंट इज आई विल नॉट बी एबल टू क्लेम अ लॉस, because there is no loss as such, right? There is no loss as such. My sale consideration is 150 and FMV is 200, whichever is lower. 150 रुपीज आएगा मेरा, जिससे मैं कंपेयर करूंगा 100 से एक्चुअल कॉस्ट से, whichever is higher I will consider that to be my cost of acquisition, and effectively there will be no capital gain in this particular scenario. Case 3, if you look at it, 100 is my actual cost. Again, I have kept 100x common in all actual cost cases. FMV is 50 and sale value is 150. तो यहाँ पे again whichever is lower, 150 versus 50. So 50, I compare 50 with 100, whichever is higher. तो यहाँ पे मेरा actual cost ही मैं लूंगा, which is 100. So 150 minus 100, 50 पे मेरे को capital gain आएगा. The fourth scenario is where I have actual cost of 100, FMV is 200, and my sale consideration is 50. My sale consideration is 50. So again 200 versus 50, 50 versus 100, whichever is higher, 100. So 100 is my cost, 100 is my cost, so 50 sale price minus 100, so 50 का loss मुझे मिलेगा. Similarly, last case में my actual cost is 100, my FMV is 80, sale consideration is 70. Okay, so 70 versus 80, whichever is lower, 70. 70 versus 100, whichever is higher, 100. So 100 is my cost of acquisition, 70 is my sale consideration, 70 minus 100, 30 will be my long-term capital loss. 30 will be my long-term capital loss. Right? So these are the scenarios. I just thought that I'll take it up by virtue of example so that everybody can understand different scenarios, how to calculate my FMV and how to calculate my capital gains. Okay. So I think this was relevant earlier. Today there is a clarity on everything. What is the date from which the period of holding to be counted? It is from the original date of acquisition. What is the cost of acquisition in case of bonus shares which are acquired before 1418? Fair market value on 31st January 18 will be taken as cost of acquisition. So see, generally bonus के case में the cost is nil, right? Bonus के case में cost is nil. However, you can still take FMV as on 31st January. They do not want to tax anything. They do not want to tax anything till 31st January 2018, right? What will be the cost of acquisition in case of right shares acquired before 1st February? Again, for right shares also, it will be computed in accordance with section 55. Fair market value of 31st March 2018 can be considered, except where the sale consideration is less than fair market value. So effectively, the idea is they don't want to tax anything till 31st January 2018. Next aspect is conversion of capital asset into stock in trade and vice versa, right? So 45(2) deals with conversion of capital asset into stock in trade. Capital gain arises on conversion. Income chargeable to tax in the previous year in which such stock is transferred. FMV as on the date of conversion shall be deemed to be the full value of consideration. For computing PGBP on sale of stock in trade, FMV on the date of conversion will be allowed to be the deduction, right? Now, one aspect here is, just to give you an example, if I am a jeweler, okay, what I do is I bring the jewelry of my wife, and I convert it into my stock in trade. I bring jewelry of my wife and convert it into stock in trade. So effectively, I am converting capital asset into stock in trade. Assuming I convert it today. Today is 25th of July 2023. I convert that today. So whatever is the fair market value as of today, that will be considered to be my full value of consideration. ठीक है, इसमें से मेरा जो भी एक्चुअल कॉस्ट होगा या इंडेक्स कॉस्ट होगा वो मैं माइनस करूंगा, तो आएगा मेरा लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म कैपिटल गेन. Now one important aspect here is what will be the point of taxation. FMV तो मैंने आज का ले लिया, बट ये टैक्स कभी लगेगा? जब भी ये स्टॉक इन ट्रेड एक्चुअली सेल होगा, तभी ये कैपिटल गेन भी आएगा. Assuming I sell this jewelry in the next year, that is financial year 24-25 में I sell this jewelry, then capital gain also will trigger in the next year and not in this year. ठीक है, so जिस साल में मेरा स्टॉक इन ट्रेड सेल होगा उसी साल में कैपिटल गेन आएगा. सेकंड बुलेट अगर आप देखो, इनकम चार्जेबल टू टैक्स इन द प्रीवियस ईयर इन विच सच स्टॉक इन ट्रेड इज ट्रांसफर्ड और सोल्ड. ओके, सो अगर मैं अगले साल बेचता हूं तो अगले साल ही कैपिटल गेन आएगा. ओके, तो जो भी मेरा कैपिटल गेन में मैंने फुल मार्केट फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू कंसीडर किया है एज सेल कंसिडरेशन, that will be considered to be my, just a second. Yeah, sorry. So as I said, this will be taxable as capital gains, but in the year of actual sale of stock in trade. Okay. Secondly, whatever is the full value of consideration that I consider for capital gain computation, that will be allowed to me as a cost for computing my profits and gain from business. Okay. So जब भी मैं वो सेल करूंगा एक्चुअल स्टॉक इन ट्रेड, जो भी उसका सेल प्राइस रहेगा, उसमें से हम माइनस करेंगे, जो भी ये फुल वैल्यू ऑफ कंसिडरेशन है, and balance will be taxed as business profit. Okay, assuming just by virtue of an example, if the cost of my jewelry is say 1 crore, cost of my jewelry is 1 crore, and today I am converting the jewelry, then the value as of today, assuming it is 2 crores, assuming the value as of today is 2 crores, so 2 crores will be considered to be full value of consideration. उसमें से 1 करोड़ माइनस होगा, which is my cost of acquisition, and balance 1 crore will be taxable as long term capital gain or short term capital gain as the case may be. Okay, but ये टैक्स कभी होगा? अगले साल में, next year. Now coming to business profit. Assuming my business profit is, say, I have sold this jewelry now at say 2.5 crores. I have sold this in the case of 2.5 crores. Okay, 2.5 crores का ज्वेलरी है, अभी मैंने 2 करोड़ ऑलरेडी फुल वैल्यू ऑफ कंसिडरेशन कंसिडर किया है पहले, सो 2 करोड़ पे मैंने ऑलरेडी टैक्स भर दिया है, तो अभी मुझे सिर्फ बैलेंस 50 करोड़ पे टैक्स, बैलेंस 50 लाख पे टैक्स भरना है. ठीक है, विच इज 2.5 करोड़ माइनस 2 करोड़, तो 50 लाख पे मुझे टैक्स भरना है. ओके, so this is how I will calculate my full value of consideration. So there is some question in the chat box. In case of conversion of jewelry, what shall be the cost of acquisition if received on occasion of marriage? No invoice. If the marriage is prior to 1/4/2001, you can take the fair market value of 1/4/2001. Received from inheritance estate, again I believe it is I assume it is prior to 1/4/2001. So you can take the fair market value of 1/4/2001. Okay. So that is how you will consider the fair market value on 1/4/2001 and calculate the index cost of acquisition. I am assuming here that the marriage is prior to, or it is received prior to 2001. Original purchase was prior to 2001. Okay. Original purchase was prior to 2001. So you consider the fair market value on 1st April 2021. Now the reverse situation, the reverse scenario. Okay. So if it is after 1/4/2001, if it is after 1/4/2001, then unfortunately you do not have the benefit of the fair market value. ठीक है, तभी आपको एक्चुअल कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन ही लेना है. अगर आपको एक्चुअल कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन नहीं पता है या you don't have the documentary evidences, then it will become very difficult for you practically to claim the benefit or to claim the cost of acquisition as a deduction, because to claim any deduction you will need documentary proof or documentary evidence. In absence of that, it will be difficult for you to claim. It will be a straightforward loss to you, right? So there was no case for a reverse case situation. हमने देखा 45(2) में कैपिटल गेन कन्वर्ट होता है स्टॉक इन ट्रेड में, तो वो टैक्स होता है. बट व्हाट अबाउट स्टॉक इन ट्रेड कन्वर्टेड इनटू कैपिटल एसेट? व्हाट अबाउट स्टॉक इन ट्रेड कन्वर्टेड इनटू कैपिटल एसेट? ठीक है, जस्ट टू गिव यू एन एग्जांपल, assuming I am a builder or a developer, I am a builder or a developer, I construct commercial premises or commercial offices and sell those. Now I decide that out of the 50 floors which I have constructed, I will keep one floor as my own office. I will keep one floor as my own office. So effectively what am I doing is I am converting my stock in trade into capital asset. I am converting my stock in trade into capital asset. ज्वेलरी का ही एग्जांपल ले लो कि ज्वेलरी है, आई एम अ ज्वेलर, आई डिसाइड कि आज एक डायमंड का नेकलेस मेरी वाइफ को मैं गिफ्ट दे देता हूँ. आई गिव वन डायमंड नेकलेस टू माय वाइफ एज अ गिफ्ट ऑन अकाउंट ऑफ एनिवर्सरी और बर्थडे और व्हाटएवर. ठीक है, तो ये मैंने क्या किया, अगेन स्टॉक इन ट्रेड कन्वर्टेड इनटू कैपिटल एसेट. स्टॉक इन ट्रेड कन्वर्टेड इनटू कैपिटल एसेट आल्सो will now be taxable as business income, not as capital gains but as business income, because stock in trade is being converted. ठीक है, ये कभी होगा, fair market value on the date of conversion shall be considered to be full value of consideration. इसमें एक चीज ये है, ये कभी टैक्स होगा immediately on the date of conversion. 45(2) में हमने क्या देखा था, ये कभी टैक्स होगा in the year of sale, right? 45(2) में हमने क्या देखा था, it will be taxable in the year of sale. but यहाँ पे 28(6)(a) में सेल का जरूरत नहीं है, एक बार आपने कन्वर्ट कर दिया ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल बी टैक्सेबल एज बिजनेस इनकम. अभी इसका लॉजिक क्या है, इसका लॉजिक क्या है, समझो आपने ये प्रॉपर्टी कभी बेचा ही नहीं, समझो आपने ये प्रॉपर्टी कभी बेचा ही नहीं, आपने वो ज्वेलरी कभी बेचा ही नहीं, तो उस पे आप कभी टैक्स पे करोगे ही नहीं. आप बिजनेस में से तो लेके गए एसेट, आप बिजनेस से एसेट लेके गए, ठीक है, पर उसको बेचा नहीं, तो उस पे फिर कभी टैक्स भरोगे ही नहीं. दैट इज द लॉजिक दैट दे आर सेइंग कि आप उसका कुछ भी करो यहाँ से लेके जाने के बाद, आज की तारीख में आपने इसको कन्वर्ट किया है स्टॉक इन ट्रेड टू कैपिटल एसेट, तो आज आप टैक्स भर दो, आज आप टैक्स भर दो. ठीक है, सो आज आपने जिस अमाउंट पे टैक्स भरा है वो अमाउंट आपको डिडक्शन मिल जाएगा एट द टाइम ऑफ कैलकुलेशन ऑफ कैपिटल गेन्स. ठीक है, अज्यूमिंग आज इसका फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू अगेन 1.5 करोड़ रुपया है या 2 करोड़ रुपया है, जब आप इसको बेचोगे तब ये 2 करोड़ रुपया, बिकॉज आपने ये 2 करोड़ रुपया ऑलरेडी टैक्स भर दिया है, दिस विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज योर कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन. दिस विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज योर कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन व्हाइल कैलकुलेटिंग द कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स, जब भी आप बेचोगे तभी. ओके, अभी प्रायर टू 2018 देयर वर जजमेंट्स टू से कि लॉ में कोई प्रोविजन ही नहीं है टू टैक्स कन्वर्जन ऑफ स्टॉक इन ट्रेड इनटू कैपिटल एसेट. देयर इज अ प्रोविजन फॉर कैपिटल एसेट इनटू स्टॉक इन ट्रेड. So there was no provision, and there was one tribunal ruling, Mumbai tribunal, wherein it said कि boss provision ही नहीं है तो taxable नहीं होगा. इसीलिए ये provision आया है by Finance Act 2018 टू से कि बॉस अगर आप स्टॉक इन ट्रेड को भी कन्वर्ट करते हो तो भी वो टैक्स हो जाएगा एज बिजनेस इनकम. ठीक है, while it is a part of business income, but I just thought that I will cover this because it is a flip situation of conversion of stock in trade or capital asset into stock in trade. Section 50C and Section 50CA for real estate, provision to tax the difference between the FMV and the consideration received on transfer of capital asset being land or building or both as capital gains in the hands of the transferor. Right? Amendment by Finance Act 2018. What does it say? The value adopted or assessed or assessable by stamp duty valuation authority does not exceed 105%. So effectively वो लोगों ने 5% का safe harbor दिया था. This 5% is now increased from 5% to 10%. ठीक है, मतलब अगर आपका स्टैम्प ड्यूटी वैल्यू इज, अगर आपका सेल कंसिडरेशन 100 है, स्टैम्प ड्यूटी वैल्यू 109 है, तो आपको ये प्रोविजन ट्रिगर नहीं होगा. अगर स्टैम्प ड्यूटी वैल्यू 111 है और आपका सेल वैल्यू 100 है तो 50C ट्रिगर हो जाएगा. आई होप आई एम क्लियर. राइट, so effectively the tolerance level is increased to 10% as compared to 5% earlier. लॉकडाउन के टाइम एक स्पेसिफिक पीरियड के लिए उन्होंने 20% भी दिया था. ऑफ कोर्स इट वाज सब्जेक्ट टू वेरियस कंडीशंस फॉर अ स्पेसिफिक पीरियड फ्रॉम जुलाई टू फेब्रुअरी एक्सेट्रा. 50CA, this is for shares. Again, this was introduced by Finance Act 2017 with effect from 1st April 2018. Deems full value of consideration on transfer of shares other than quoted shares as its FMV if the sale consideration agreed between the parties is less than the FMV. So you need to look at rule 11UAA, which again will take you back to 11UA. मतलब यहाँ पे भी ये शेयर वैल्यूएशन में भी अगर आपके पास कोई प्रॉपर्टी है, कोई एसेट है, कोई इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी है, तो आपको उस इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी को भी रीवैल्यू करना पड़ेगा टू अराइव एट द वैल्यू ऑफ 11UA. ठीक है, 50CA. Whether results in double taxation, that is in the hands of the seller, 50CA and 56(2)(10, arguably yes, because assuming आपने जो शेयर्स बेचा है, शेयर्स आपने बेचा है 1 करोड़ रुपए में, फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू है 1 करोड़ 20 लाख, फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू है 1 करोड़ 20 लाख, आपने बेचा है 1 करोड़, तो ये 20 लाख आपके हाथ में टैक्स हो जाएगा अंडर सेक्शन 50CA. सिमिलरली बायर के हाथ में भी ये टैक्स हो जाएगा अंडर सेक्शन 56(2)(10, सेम अमाउंट. राइट, बिकॉज बायर ने क्या किया, फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू से कम में परचेस किया. सो अगर फेयर मार्केट वैल्यू से कम में परचेस किया है तो भी उसके हाथ में भी, बायर के हाथ में भी टैक्सेबल हो जाएगा. ठीक है, so there is a double taxation but in the hands of different person. डबल टैक्सेशन है बट दो अलग अलग लोगों के हाथ में डबल टैक्सेशन. राइट, 56(2)(10, again you have a separate session on income from other sources, so I'll not spend much time on this, but still it is a similar provision wherein other sources में भी अगर आपको कोई asset मिलता है at a price और shares मिलते हैं at a price which is less than the fair market value, then also it is taxable in the hands of the purchaser. It is also taxable in the hands of the purchaser. So if you look at an example, interplay between 50CA and 56(2)(10, transferor A Limited, transferee B Limited. B Limited purchases 100 shares of private limited company from A Limited at a price of 900. Total consideration है 9 lakh rupees. Okay. A Limited had acquired such shares at 800. Gross amount paid 8 lakh rupees. FMV of the shares on the date of transfer is 1000. 1000 रुपए का शेयर मैंने सेल किया है 900 रुपए. 1000 का शेयर मैंने सेल किया है 900 रुपए में. ठीक है. What would be the tax implications in the hands of the transferor A Limited under section 50CA, and what will be the amount to be taxed in the hands of B Limited? Yes, in the chat box please. A Limited के हाथ में क्या टैक्स होगा? सबसे पहले ट्रांसफरर के हाथ में if I apply 50 CA, then what will be the amount on which I will have to pay capital gains? $1,000 into 100 मतलब 10 लाख माइनस मेरा एक्चुअल परचेस कंसिडरेशन था 8 लाख रुपया. So 10 lakhs minus 8 lakhs, 2 lakhs will be my capital gains. Yes, 50 CA में 2 lakhs will be my capital gains. Everybody, yes or no in the chat box? Right, 2 lakh rupees. Okay, 2 lakh rupees. Now बी लिमिटेड के हाथ में आते हैं. बी लिमिटेड को 10 लाख का शेयर कितने में मिला? 9 लाख में मिला. 10 लाख का शेयर 9 लाख में मिला. तो इसके हाथ में ये जो डिफरेंस है 10 lakh minus 9 lakhs, 1 lakh will be taxable in the hands of B Limited under section 56 to 10. Under section 56 to 10. Okay. So prior to amendment क्या होता था? 9 lakhs minus 8 lakhs, 1 lakh rupees. B के हाथ में कुछ नहीं. Amendment के बाद 10 lakhs minus 8 lakhs, 2 lakhs capital gain in the hands of A Limited as we just discussed. B Limited 10 lakhs minus 9 lakhs, right? 1 लाख रुपया टैक्स हो जाएगा in the hands of B Limited. Correct? As income from other sources. As income from other sources. So this is the interplay between 50 CA and 56 to 10. Of course, जब भी B Limited बेचेगा तभी ये जो 10 लाख पे उसने टैक्स भरा है वो उसको कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन मिल जाएगा. JDA, Joint Development Agreement. This is specific to the real estate sector. Just to explain you the concept of JDA. JDA में क्या होता है? There is one landowner and there is one developer. ठीक है? Landowner इस केस में है Mr. A and developer है. ठीक है? एक JDA एंटर होता है जहां पे लैंड ओनर अपना लैंड देगा डेवलपर को और डेवलपर वहां पे बिल्डिंग बनाएगा एंड देयर विल बी एन एरिया शेयर कि सपोज 10 माले का बिल्डिंग बनाएगा तो उसमें से 1 फ्लोर विल बी ऑफ ए, 1 फ्लोर विल बी गिवन टू ए फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट और एट अ कंसेशनल प्राइस व्हिच इज कॉल्ड एज एरिया शेयरिंग. दूसरा है रेवेन्यू शेयरिंग. रेवेन्यू शेयरिंग में क्या होता है कि जितना भी फ्लैट्स बिकेगा उसका जो भी प्रॉफिट होगा वो शेयर होगा ए में और डेवलपर में on whatever ratio 60-40, 75-25, whatever is agreed between the two. एरिया शेयर में क्या होता है? लैंड ओनर को एरिया मिलता है, बिल्ट अप एरिया मिलता है. रेवेन्यू शेयर में रेवेन्यू शेयर होता है बिल्डर के और डेवलपर और लैंड ओनर के बीच में. ओके. गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स फॉर JDA टू ट्रिगर द ट्रांसफर. ट्रांसफर इज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड व्हेन द पोजीशन इज हैंडेड ओवर. ठीक है, पोजीशन मैंने दे दिया एज अ लैंड ओनर, मैंने पोजीशन डेवलपर को दे दिया, इफेक्टिवली ट्रांसफर हो गया एज पर ट्रांसफर ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट. ग्रांटिंग पावर टू डिस्पोज द प्रॉपर्टी इन एब्सोल्यूट डिस्क्रिशन टू डेवलपर इज सिग्निफिकेंट फैक्टर. नॉट mere possession but effective control. नोट नहीं है, ये नॉट है बेसिकली, देयर इज अ टाइपो एरर हियर. Not mere possession but effective control over the property should be assumed by the developer to constitute transfer. Developer should be willing to perform his obligation under section 247 before 247 is invoked. Possession handed over in capacity as licensee तभी वो नहीं होगा taxable. Transfer when sale consideration is received in kind. The terms of JDA are very critical. It is not that easy practically speaking. Due care to be taken while drafting of the same. ठीक है, अभी to overcome all these complications कि भाई ट्रांसफर कभी होगा. ठीक है, द गवर्नमेंट को रिप्रेजेंटेशन किया था कि बॉस JDA में देयर आर रिस्ट्रिक्शंस बिकॉज क्या होता है, लैंड ओनर ने लैंड तो दे दिया, उसको बिल्टअप एरिया मिलेगा 3 साल 4 साल 5 साल बाद, समझो कोई कैश कंसिडरेशन नहीं है तो उसको आज की तारीख में तो कुछ मिला ही नहीं कंसिडरेशन. फिर भी अगर आप बोलोगे कि तुम्हारा ट्रांसफर हो गया है, तुम कैपिटल गेन भरो, तो लैंड ओनर विल से बॉस मुझे तो कुछ मिला ही नहीं ना, मेरे पास कैश है, मैं टैक्स भरूं कहां से? प्रैक्टिकली स्पीकिंग फ्रॉम वेयर डू आई पे द टैक्स, right? So there were various judgments or various litigations and there were judgments on both the sides. डिपार्टमेंट का कंटेंशन कुछ था कि ये कैपिटल गेन हो जाएगा, एसएससी बोलता है कि भाई मेरे को तो कुछ मिला ही नहीं, मेरे को तो 3 साल बाद मिलेगा, तो कैसे अभी टैक्सेबल करोगे आप? ठीक है, तो इसमें टू ओवरकम दिस and these are the judgments, right, which are both ways, कोई favorable है कोई against में है. So to bring this litigation to rest, गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, एक फाइनेंस एक्ट 2017 में अमेंडमेंट लाया जो बोलता है कि ये सिर्फ अमेंडमेंट इंडिविजुअल एचयूएफ को ही एप्लीकेबल है. However, partnership firm companies do not have recourse to this amendment. So this benefit is available only to individual HUF. So if I am an individual HUF landowner, then capital gain will be taxable only when the CC is received for this particular project. CC मतलब बॉम्बे में OC होता है, मुंबई में CC नहीं मिलता है, OC मिलता है. When the completion certificate or occupancy certificate is received by the competent authorities, stamp duty value of the landowner shares, ठीक है, on the date of CC, जिस दिन CC या OC आएगा उस दिन का stamp duty value will be my full value of consideration. तब तक कोई टैक्स नहीं. If the landowner transfers his share in the project before the date of the issue of the CC, this section will not apply and normal provision will apply. पहले भेज दिया तो ये section applicable नहीं होगा. Corresponding amendment in TDS provisions 194 IC आ गया, 10% on the consideration not being in kind at the time of credit or payment whichever is earlier. So अगर कोई कैश कंपोनेंट दिया है, जेडीए में कभी कभी क्या होता है, अपफ्रंट पेमेंट भी होता है कि बिल्डर लैंड ओनर को कोई 1 करोड़ 2 करोड़ अपफ्रंट पेमेंट भी कैश में देता है. कैश में मतलब ऑब्वियसली चेक में. In that case also there is a TDS under section 194 IC at the rate of 10%. So as I said, controversy will continue for other than individual HUF, and this amendment is prospective. उसके पहले का क्या, उसके पहले के litigations अभी भी चालू ही रहेंगे. Other recent amendments, again Finance Act 2023, this may not be relevant for filing the return of income but still relevant as on today. Erstwhile provision of section 54 and 54F had no threshold limit. ठीक है, आपको बिना लिमिट के आपको कैपिटल गेन एग्जेम्पशन मिलता था. अभी 10 करोड़ का लिमिट आ गया इसमें. यू कैनॉट क्लेम बेनिफिट ऑफ मोर देन 10 करोड़. ठीक है, मैक्सिमम एलिजिबल अमाउंट फॉर कैलकुलेटिंग द डिडक्शन इज 10 करोड़. तो इसका भी मैंने यहाँ पे एग्जांपल दिया है. ऑब्वियसली आई विल बी सर्कुलेटिंग दिस स्लाइड डेक. ठीक है, सो यू कैन गो थ्रू दिस इन डिफरेंट सिनारियोस. जो कि पहले मुझे डिडक्शन मिलता था 20 करोड़ का, अभी कितना मिलेगा, 9 करोड़, 8 करोड़, 6 करोड़. ठीक है, पहले 20 करोड़ मिलता था, अभी कितना मिलेगा, 8 करोड़ मिलेगा. राइट. सो दिस इज द recent amendment on 54 and 54F with example. You can go through these examples. In the interest of the time, I am skipping this example. Cost of acquisition for intangibles, right? There were few judgments which says that in case of intangibles, since you don't have the cost of acquisition, then the computation mechanism fails and therefore it should not be chargeable tax. So abhi amendment aa gaya 55 mein. It says that cost of acquisition and improvement shall be taken as nil for intangible assets. So intangible assets अगर आपने कोई self develop किया है etc. तो उसका cost of acquisition हो जाएगा nil. जिसने भी आप बेचोगे उस पे आपको पूरे अमाउंट पे कैपिटल गेन्स लग जाएगा. नो डिडक्शन अलाउएबल. CII for 23-24 there is a typo error here, not 2021 but 23-24 is 348. ठीक है. Just before 2 days of advance tax they have issued this CII for 24-25 assessment year. It is 348. Amendment to section 54 EC again. 54 EC में भी अपर लिमिट आ गया है 50 लाख का, और जो लॉक इन था 3 साल का, वो लॉक इन अभी हो गया है 5 साल का. लॉक इन हो गया है 5 साल का. ठीक है. And 54 EC now is available restricted only to capital gains arising from long term capital gains being land or building or both. पहले किसी भी एसेट पे हम लोग 54 EC क्लेम कर सकते थे. Now it is restricted only to land and building. Again, depreciable asset, how do you calculate capital gains? It is very self-explanatory. I need not spend time on that. WDV on the block of asset. एक्चुअल कॉस्ट हम ऐड करते हैं और फिर एक्सपेंडिचर इनकर्ड ओनली और एक्सक्लूसिवली माइनस करते हैं, ठीक है. Excess shall be charged to short-term capital gain. I think 51 and 52 we all know about it. We need not spend much time on this. Slump sale again 50B. Now again slump sale में भी valuation rules आ गया है कि you have to revalue under the slump sale. Now earlier people used to do slump sale at book value. Now you cannot do slump sale at book value. You have to revalue your assets and arrive at the fair market value. (50C) basically, is it applicable to land building or part of an undertaking? Answer is 50C is not applicable to 50B because effectively it is undertaking and not any land or building. However, now you have the revaluation rules, you have the revised rules. So 50B may be effectively in a way 50C आ ही गया, in a way 50C आ ही गया because ये सब जो arguments था पहले ये लैंड एंड बिल्डिंग नहीं है, हम तो अंडरटेकिंग सेल कर रहे हैं एक्सेट्रा, वो सब आर्ग्यूमेंट्स अभी चला गया, अभी ये सारा आर्ग्यूमेंट्स चला गया. ओके. Now one last aspect I wanted to cover is basically income from sale of shares and securities. ये हमेशा क्वेश्चन आता है कि बॉस ये कैपिटल गेन है या बिजनेस इनकम, whether this is capital gain or business income. Okay. Income from sale of shares or securities. So if you can use the chat box. Assuming I am trading on a daily basis, इंडिविजुअल हूं, रोज का एक शेयर में परचेस करता हूं, एक शेयर बेचता हूं, ठीक है. आई एम अ सैलरीड एम्प्लॉई. विल इट बी कंसिडर्ड टू बी प्रॉफिट फ्रॉम गेन्स फ्रॉम बिजनेस और प्रोफेशन और विल इट बी कैपिटल गेन्स? यस, कैपिटल गेन्स. CG, okay, capital gains, okay. So see, there is a flexibility available here, okay, there is a flexibility available here. Assessee having income from sale of listed shares has been given a choice to treat the income as capital gains or PGBP. Stand adopted by the assessee shall be consistently followed year on year. So CBDT circular है 6 of 2016. So it is up to you. You can treat it as capital gains or you can treat it as business income, but you have to continue this stand on a continuous basis. ठीक है, एक बार आप कैपिटल गेन करोगे, दूसरे साल बिजनेस करोगे, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा, राइट? Indirect transfer. Now, as I have already explained this earlier, कि फॉरेन कंपनी का शेयर्स भी अगर आप बेचोगे, फॉरेन कंपनी का शेयर्स भी अगर आप बेचोगे तो भी ये टैक्स हो जाएगा इंडिया में. ये उसका एग्जांपल है इनडायरेक्ट ट्रांसफर का, ठीक है, कि इफ यू आर सेलिंग द शेयर्स ऑफ सिंगापुर कंपनी, देन if the Singapore company derives substantial value from India मतलब more than 50%, then also this particular sale of shares will be taxable in India, on a proportionate basis. मतलब जितना इंडिया वैल्यू है 100 करोड़ में से समझो इंडिया 52% है, तो 52 crores will be taxable in India. 52 crores will be taxable in India. ठीक है. What do you mean by substantial? Amount exceeds more than 10 crore rupees and represents at least 50% of the value of all the assets owned. These are the reporting requirements. Form 3CT is required to be filed for indirect transfer. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. I am on time, right? So now we can have the Q&A sessions and we can discuss your queries, discuss your questions and take it up. I'll open the Q&A box if there is any. Yesterday's PPT, yes, WRC will share. My PPT, yes, I will share with WRC and they will share today. So this is answered. Can NRI use actual conversion in their forex? Arguably, yes, you can do that. If you say that you have received that money in INR in the Indian bank account, then you can rely on the actual income theory and say that yes, this is the amount I have actually received in my bank account, so this is how it should be chargeable to tax. You can use that, you can do that, arguably yes. For a business of building and running sports complex, will the land purchase for such business be considered as a capital asset? Yes, it will be a capital asset. Anonymous attendee. Yes, it will be a capital asset. Yeah, so are there any questions in the chat box? Yeah, generally actuals of interest and dividend more or less match the figures in AIS, TIS. However, understand that the shares, share market income, STCG, LTCG is not mentioned explicitly in AIS, TIS, only purchase and sale value. Yes. So here you have to take, as per the broker's report, you have to take the report from your share broker, and you have to rely on that. Just ensure that the calculations provided by the broker are correct, because I have seen brokers report may be issues here. Brokers report also do not calculate the capital gains properly. So what, as a best solution, you can look at the contract notes. But if the contract notes are very valuable, very bulky because of the number of transactions, etc., yes, you can rely on the broker's report. But just double check on the calculations, because there are some mistakes. कभी कभी वो लोग 1 lakh consider नहीं करते हैं. So all those errors are there. So just you can rely on broker statement, but ensure that it is properly calculated. 112A available to NRI. Yes, gain up to 1 lakh is exempt. Yes, it is exempt. Residential property sold. The property was jointly owned by husband and wife. Agreement, bank receipts are correctly received. 50-50 ratio. TDS. Yes, this is a practical issue. 100% shares is 100% TDS obligation is undertaken by the husband. This is a practical issue which many people are facing. See, I believe till the time there is proper compliance, I don't see that the government is not at a loss, right? This is just for the administrative convenience that the husband has deducted tax at source completely and deposited to the government. So I don't see it as a challenge. Yes, it is a technical issue. Technical glitch system se aa raha hai. So if you can prove that yes, TDS has been properly paid and by the husband, there shouldn't be a challenge in the long run. Yes, issues hai, technical issues hai, but logically there shouldn't be a challenge, because pay to kar diya hai government treasury mein. So that is the main intent. Professional asset car transferred as a personal effect upon closure of practice, does it attract actual sales? See, car is not a capital asset at all, okay? Because it is a personal asset, if you see. So therefore, car, you cannot say that it is a capital asset, firstly. Okay, nor you can say that if, unless you are dealing in car, you should not say that it is a stock in trade. So ideally, car पे capital gain नहीं लगना चाहिए. Capital asset converted into stock in trade. Previous year 21-22 किधर गया? 1 kg gold sold 300 in 21-22, sold 200 from remaining balance in 22-23, sold 300 grams in 25-26. Rest is unsold. In this case, how to pay CG tax? So you have to pay CG tax proportionate to 300 grams in the same year 21-22, proportionate to 200 grams in 22-23, and proportionate to 300 grams in 25-26. Fair market value आपको जो लेना है वो 21-22 का ही लेना है, ठीक है? For full value of consideration, you have to take 21-22 का ही fair market value. But tax कभी होगा? 200 ग्राम्स के लिए, 300 ग्राम्स के लिए उसी साल में होगा, 200 ग्राम्स के लिए 22-23 में होगा, और 300 ग्राम्स के लिए 25-26 में होगा, और रेस्ट जो बैलेंस है वो जब आप बेचोगे तभी होगा. I hope I am clear. Individual sold 3 residential properties and invested in these jointly, but can he claim exemption? Yes, he can. Not an issue. TDS 3 to be filled in case of joint property use. Suprita, if you can just elaborate on your question. I'm not sure what your question is. I have sold property during the year held by me and my mother jointly. However, cost was paid by me. Now at the time of sale, it has been reported both in my AIS and mother's AIS. How do I file my return? So see, you have to see logically. If you say that you have borne the cost and you are the owner, you are the first owner, you can show. If you can prove that you are the sole owner, it was just for the administrative convenience that you had two names. Then you can show entire capital gains in your return. Alternatively, the logical way will be do it 50-50. But in this case, I believe TDS also पूरा आपके नाम पे हुआ रहेगा. So if you can prove that cost आपने bear किया है, पैसा आपने दिया है पहले भी, so arguably you can say that this is my asset only. So you show it in your return only and not in your mother's return. That is possible. Depreciation on car being claimed and professional income upon closure of practice, it is sold at higher than WDV as personal effect. See, when it is a capital asset, or rather when it is my depreciable asset में you cannot say that it is my personal asset. ठीक है? तो depreciable asset के लिए मुझे section 50 subsection 1 और 50 subsection 2 देखना पड़ेगा. जो भी मेरा sale consideration है, if it is higher than the WDV and asset ceases to exist, then that will be taxable as short-term capital gain as business in the hands of the business. Basically, it will be my short-term capital gains. Okay. Because if you have shown it in your balance sheet, then it is your business asset, right? If you have shown it in your balance sheet, then it is your business asset. Then it is a depreciable asset जिस पे आपने depreciation claim किया है. अगर आपने claim किया है, practice is closed does not matter. Whether practice is ongoing or closed does not matter. It will be still taxable as capital gains. Any depreciable asset, you have to check section 50 subsection 1 or 60 subsection 2 as the case. Yeah. Any other questions? I have answered all the questions in the Q&A as well as in the chat box. So, yeah, so please. There is one question. Yeah, there is one question referring to the earlier case of house property sale, wherein the entire TDS is deducted in case of husband only, while ITR should we split the TDS jointly by correcting through TDS schedule 3. You can do that, provided you want to show that you both are equal owners or you both are, proportionate owners. That is possible. You can do that. Completely flexible about it. But you should be clear what is the share. That is important. Then you have to continue that share throughout. फिर बाद में आप ऐसा नहीं बोल सकते रेंटल इनकम के टाइम या कैपिटल गेन कैलकुलेशन के टाइम कि नहीं आई एम 50% ओनर, नहीं आई एम 60% ओनर, आई एम 70-20 एक्सेट्रा. You cannot do that. In case of preference shares, it will be you have to check. It will be unlisted shares, so 24 months. Indexation, yes, you can claim the alternate benefit of 10 versus 20. That is possible. Yes, Ketan bhai.
I was also having one small query, so I thought I'll ask you.
Yeah.
Basically, one of my clients' case just wanted to take your view. We sold the property in 22-23, and then the next property which he has purchased, he has paid the capital gain amount more than that. He has paid amount for stamp duty already paid, registration amount is also paid, but the document creation is pending because builder was not having CC of that floor. And since the due date of return is coming, the amounts paid is much higher than the capital gain. So under 54, can we say that, we have invested into new property?
So only possession is pending, right?
No, agreement is also pending. The registration of agreement is not done.
Okay, registration of agreement is not done, but the payments are made.
Payments are made, stamp duty is paid, registration charges is also paid. But builder said that because of technical problem, CC not come, the registration is, maybe done in the August or subsequently in August, September. So intentions are there to register and everything is there. The substantial part is over.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that because I have already paid. See, what is important is the investment of funds, right? These are all technical issues or technical things which should not debar you from claiming any deduction. I think you should do that. You should claim them.
Fair, absolutely fair. Thank you.
Yeah. There is one question: treatment of FNO loss for salaried ITR. Which ITR to be filed plus balance sheet and P&L required or not? Whether tax audit applicable? See, FNO, I believe unless you have opted for 44AD, tax audit should not be applicable, right? While it is a question of business, to be taken by Pankaj by tomorrow, but still, since the question is asked, I'll answer it. That for FNA, ideally, either you can file form ITR 3 or ITR 4, as the case may be, because if you are filling up balance sheet and P&L, if at all you are filling, then you have to file ITR 3. Otherwise, you can very well go to 44AD and file ITR 4 also. So for tax audit, not applicable unless you are going for 44AD. Otherwise, tax audit is not applicable. Balance sheet P&L not required as such. So I hope I have answered the anonymous attendee also. Why are you hiding your name? I don't know. Okay. So ILFS preference shares held for over 3 years since not redeemable now. So effectively, is there a transfer, right? Can you show long-term capital loss? What is the trigger to show this as a transfer? First of all, there has to be a transfer, right? If you are saying it is not redeemable for whatever ILFS issues, etc., then do you mean that asset is, there has to be some transaction or there has to be some document from the company to say that it is not redeemable, or there has to be some action to show that this preference shares are of no value today. Otherwise, you cannot show it as a transfer, because unless there is a transaction or a trigger, you cannot book the loss. While redemption was due, I know it was due in 22, but the matter is pending before NCLT, I guess, or the court. I don't know where it is pending. So unless there is a document from the court or from the NCLT that this redemption or cancellation of preference shares, I don't see it as a transaction, rather as a reportable transaction, right? So yes, I understand your problem. It should be, because nothing is going to be received from that practically. But is there a documentary evidence to prove that? That is what we need to check. See, whatever you do in your books of account, that is, you write down your investments, that has nothing to do with your long-term capital gain taxability, right? Write down, write off, etc. is an accounting entry. For capital gain, as I said in the beginning itself, transfer is mandatory. Whether you fall in the definition of transfer, that is something which is important, right? Can you say that you have relinquished your right in that bonds? And if you say that it is written down by virtue of RBI, then arguably you can say that yes, this is relinquishment of my right in these bonds. So therefore, it is a transfer, and I am reducing the value. That is the reason I have RBI approval also, and therefore it should be long-term capital loss. Arguably, yes, you can do that. Arguably, yes, you can do that. But again, untested territory. You never know how the department will react to it. Yeah, I think Ketan bhai, I've answered all the questions. Any other questions?
I think on Q&A, one more Parak ji had put one. Raghuveer Parak had put that car ka question. I don't know whether that is taken up.
Yeah, car question I have already taken.
Okay. Fair. So maybe we'll wait for 2 minutes. If there is any other question, we can take it up, or otherwise we can wind up. No problem. Just.
At times, it is difficult to get the cost of investment of shares from the broker. How do we manage that? They give valuation as on a particular date. No, so there has to be a broker note. They have to maintain that record of purchase and sale. Contract note, right? What do we call it as a contract note? If his report is not clear, you may very well call for the contract notes. It will have all the details of purchase unit, purchase per unit, number of units, etc. It will have everything. I don't see in today's scenario it will be difficult for a broker to provide these details. But if at all it is difficult, you can call for the contract notes and do the workings yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I think fair. All in all, I think a wonderful session, which is being handled by Vyomesh. As I said, without perhaps any time he was having yesterday morning. I think I spoke to him at around 10 and requested him to take up this session. And really thankful to you, Vyomesh. I mean, this has been the support from him always. I have seen, whether it was these type of seminar or some contribution, we find that a huge support from Vyomesh. We, on behalf of Western India Regional Council, on behalf of all the participants present here, I propose a very hearty vote of thanks to Vyomesh for sparing his valuable time. Yeah, somebody is asking for PPT. Yes, please hold on for a day or so. We'll post all the PPTs, and as I mentioned yesterday, we need to have some internal processes to be done before we post a video or before we post the PPT. So once that is done, definitely all the 4 days PPT and video we shall be on the site. So please hold on. So thank you, Vyomesh, and thank you each one of you for making this session live. Thank you so much.
Thank you.